Hey guys, this lesson is 6-3, proving that a quadrilateral is a parallelogram. We're going to use the knowledge from the previous lesson, the properties of a parallelogram, and basically we're going to show, based on the information that we're given, that the quadrilateral that we have is actually a parallelogram. So we're going to be doing some solving for x and y in this lesson, and then you're going to have a little bit of proof, or some proofs that you're going to have to do in your assignments. Remember that you can do the online assignment if you'd prefer, so just bring your laptop or tablet to class, and the assignment will be available so you can work on that rather than work on paper. There's 5 theorems listed here. The first one is theorem 6-8, and it says if both pairs of opposite sides of a quadrilateral are congruent, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So if I already know that both sides are, or both pairs of opposite sides are congruent, then I know that it's a parallelogram. The next one, if an angle is if an angle of a quadrilateral is supplementary to both of its consecutive angles, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So if angle B and angle A equal 180, and angle D and angle A equal 180, then I know that it's a parallelogram. The next one, if both pairs of opposite angles of a quadrilateral are congruent, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So basically, if B is congruent to D and A is congruent to C, then we know it's a parallelogram. Next one, if the diagonals bisect each other, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So if AE is congruent to CE and BE is congruent to DE, then it's a parallelogram. And lastly, if the opposite sides are congruent and parallel, then it is a parallelogram. So this should sound familiar to you. The previous video talked about the properties, and most of these were listed. So make sure that you are familiar with the properties. Remember that a quadrilateral is a polygon that has 4 sides. But a quadrilateral is not always a parallelogram. These properties must be true in order for it to be a parallelogram. Here you see a summary of what we just talked about. On the left side, it's just kind of listed in words the method of the theorem, and then the middle is just the name of the theorem or the source, and then the right is just a picture. Alright, our first example says to find what value of y would make PQRS be a parallelogram. So we know that opposite sides must be congruent in order for the quadrilateral to be a parallelogram. So our first step is to set the opposite sides equal to each other. Now if we set PS equal to QR, we have 2 variables in one equation, and that's not going to work. If we set PQ equal to SR, we only have 1 variable in that one equation. If you recall from the last video, systems of equations were introduced. I solved a problem using the diagonals, and we had to use systems of equations. But we only used that because there were 2 different variables in both equations. In this one, in one of the equations, we're only going to have 1 variable. So systems of equations are not going to be important here, or even useful for that matter. So what we're going to do is set PQ equal to SR, and PQ is 3x minus 5, SR is 2x plus 1. Now we solve for x. And we want to solve for x because once we get the value of x, we add 2 to it, and then we get y, which is what it was asking for. So I'm going to go ahead and add the 5 over and subtract the 2x, so I get x is equal to 6. Now x is equal to 6. 6 plus 2 is 8, so y is equal to 8. If y is equal to 8, that means that this PQRS is a parallelogram. Okay, your second example says, can you prove that the quadrilateral is a parallelogram based on the given information? If so, write a paragraph proof. If not, explain. Remember the 5 different theorems that I gave you earlier. Those will be helpful in this problem. I'm going to go ahead and show you the answer, and I'm going to talk about it. So let's go ahead and add that in there. All right, so we're trying to prove that it's a parallelogram, and we're given this information. We're given that one pair of opposite sides are congruent and that same pair of opposite sides are parallel. And we know that those pair of opposite sides are parallel because angle 50 and angle 130 are supplementary. So if you were to write a paragraph proof, this is what it would look like. Because it is given that the measure of angle A is equal to 50 and the measure of angle D is equal to 130, same side interior angles A and D are supplementary, so that would make AB parallel to CD. It is also given that AB is equal to 5 and CD is equal to 5, so AB is congruent to CD. Therefore, by the theorem 6-12, ABCD is a parallelogram. Goodness gracious. So, yes, you can prove that this is a parallelogram based on the information that you're given. Okay, last example. This one says a truck sits on the platform of a vehicle lift. Two moving arms raise the platform until a mechanic can fit underneath. Why will the truck always remain parallel to the ground as it is lifted? Explain. Take a second to think about what a parallelogram is and the information that you're given, and come up with an answer and bring this one to class. We'll have a quick discussion at the beginning of class. Don't forget to bring your tablet or laptop tomorrow if you want to do online instead of paper. Have a good rest of your day.